This family, for the last 2 years, both families have lived under these theories and it was like a cement weight was put on them. And I wanted to know, based on experts who actually know boating and water and how logic can prevail, how wild and crazy those theories were all this time. I think it's fair for them to answer, and for them to answer, not you.
For 2 years, I've been poring over every detail, separating fact from rumor, replaying every word in my head about the drowning deaths of Matthew Fairman and Tyler Miracle.
So they said, like, we're only going out for like an hour. We'll spear a couple fish.
It was 1 o'clock when we left here.
When I came down the hallway, Robin was hollering, "Tammy, we gotta go, we gotta go. That boy didn't come home last night."
Everybody was looking. Boats were out there. People was dragging with hooks. Cops were up there with helicopter flying. They brought in sonar. And they couldn't find them, so.
Police kept saying, "Oh, it's a drowning, it's a drowning." They were stealing fish, it's a drowning. And we were saying, no, it's not. Like, those boys wouldn't have been doing that, and they both knew how to swim.
He was face down. We turned him over, and then I know Manny personally, right? So I identified him right away, and then we just pulled him up on the boat.
We ran down new leads, spoke to people claiming to know something. And sometimes that meant using hidden cameras and microphones, all in the pursuit of getting closer to the truth of what really happened 10 years ago on the Bay of Quinte.
What I heard was they were all told, whoever's cutting up the nets can stand up now and admit to it, or when we catch you out there, you're gonna pay for it, and nobody stood up.
What do you think, though, was sitting down with me just to say, you know what, enough's enough?
I mean, enough is enough. Like, even that I got to talk about it 7 years later. They have to live with it, I don't.
We put everyone under the microscope, even the coroner's office.
So the cause of death is drowning. And I understand the family's concern is that someone else was involved. And if someone provides us objective evidence that someone else somehow caused them to drown, then we can reconsider the manner of death.
So that's exactly what we did. We set out to find objective evidence. But first, we had to dig up the boat Matthew and Tyler used the night they never came home.
They found the boat.
It's not even fair that we have to do this.
And it should have been done a long time ago.
Exactly.
Not us.
The boat was buried under the pretense of a so-called Mohawk tradition just days after it was found. But this secret couldn't be buried forever.
It's floating just fine. How the hell did they go down then? They didn't have that much weight in here. They had maybe 700, 800 pounds. Maybe.
That's even all your weight in one spot. That's all your weight in one spot.
Police theory is they had too much weight, they swamped, and they went under. We had way more weight than they did, and we're not even close to going under and swamping. The whole police theory is wrong. It went down flat, but how did it go down flat?
Had to have some help.
Yeah. There was a wrench sitting right here, it didn't even move.
It has to be filled with water to go down.
We didn't stop there. We put the boat back on the water with a working motor, and it still wouldn't sink, not without help.
Well, that'll be it. That's the only way.
That's the only way.
That's the only way.
That's the only way, Benji.
Another winter has almost passed, and I'm back in Tynaga Mohawk territory. Back at the home of Tyler Marickel's parents, and they're waiting for me in the garage. Because in just a couple of hours, there's a big meeting with the Chief Coroner of Ontario.
We sure haven't slept a whole lot. Our brains are just going, so.
You're still living in it every day, aren't you?
We still get up 3 o'clock. We're roughly.
We get up, me and him both wake up at the same time. We figured that happened around 3.
Mm-hmm.
We wake up every morning between 3 and 3:30.
A never-ending nightmare, replaying on a loop. It drives him to find out the truth about how Matthew and Tyler's cell phones both lost connection with a nearby cell tower at exactly 3:09 a.m. 13 days later, their bodies were found in these waters, known as Telegraph Narrows, right where police had already searched, who immediately claimed the 2 men overloaded their boat with stolen fish and drowned. The coroner agreed and ruled it an accident. Case closed, but not for the families.
They just never listened.
Or listen. No.
They never listened to the damn thing we told them. Told them to count the fish, weigh the fish, and scared to get their hands dirty or stinky or what, but nobody was on to do it, and that was just right after it happened. Now else do you find out how much was in there, right?
We weren't the only ones to test the police theory. A few months after we took Tyler's boat back on the water, Ontario's chief coroner launched his own test.
You helped us to think about some questions with the family about how the boat sank in 2015. And with those questions, I wanted to try to see if we can get a better understanding of what happened with the boat.
He brought in 2 experts, Eugene Lishow, a forensic engineer who specializes in 3D computer modeling, and Jamie Buckley, a naval architect tasked with running the new test.
So I've asked 2 experts, one a forensic engineer and one a naval architect, to work together and help to give some ideas about how the boat could have sank, how the boat got to the bottom of the water, using their big, where you can see the machinery, to capture all of the measurements. And then Eugene and Jamie put it into software, and they can do all kinds of testing on the computer. And then that will start our process. Because this isn't the end. Like, this is figuring things out step by step, and then that'll inform what we do next.
Today is the day we find out the results of those tests. I'm heading to the meeting with Tammy and Robin. It's been weighing on them.
What's going through your mind as we drive over there?
What they're gonna say to us, what the answer is gonna be.
Has that been running through your mind for months now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ever since we did the test.
That's not the only thing weighing on them. Robin's health is failing.
My breathing, I guess my lungs. Supposed to have a lung transplant, but they say he might not live any longer and might get sicker. He's sick all the time, so
So you're hanging on just long enough to find the truth, eh?
Yes, sir. See what happened to our boy. We know what happened to him.
From all accounts, Tyler was a decent kid who stuck close to home. He liked fixing machines, demolition derbies, and hanging out with his dad.
Why would anyone on earth want to hurt Tyler?
I have no idea.
That's the part we can't understand.
He never bothered anybody. He never went nowhere. He never asked nobody for nothing. He certainly never took nothing from nobody.
Here, Robin. Yeah, go on. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Are you okay here? What you go? You're good? Okay.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Dirk Heyer, I'm the chief coroner, and I know it's now we're coming on 10 years, right? 10 years. I just can't. I have no words for recognizing how difficult this loss has been. We believe you should hear all the information we have. The majority of conversation will occur with G and Jamie, but we're obviously here.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So I think what I'll do is I've just got some visuals that I'll show you, like of what I was able to produce and then what I handed off to Jamie as well. So on July 3rd, when we actually did the visit, you can see here there's some images here. So this is from the laser scanner, and there's a picture of it. And so just showing you that we're collecting a number of scans, like almost like individual pieces of the puzzle from different angles underneath, up on top, and all the way around. And we can assemble those and put them all together in a model. And this is a very, very accurate instrument. This instrument is normally used for, large roadways or buildings. It can do a lot. We can take measurements from this, right, like down to the millimeter. And it's very useful in reconstructing the boat. And this is something that you can use for the simulation that was done by Jamie.
It's probably important to say that we don't normally look at vessels to try and sink them. We're trying to look at how to prevent that from happening. So in this case, we changed our analysis around to determine what were the limiting factors of this hull and at what point did it lose its buoyancy, and try and recreate some scenarios to really set like the boundaries on how could this have sunk. What would have made it occur? And I guess the important thing is that we were trying to verify first what OPP had created in their report, also with what APTN did in their testing, which actually served to be very useful because it gave us a good reference point for the model and to determine that it's reacting in the same way as real life. I'm going to go through this next bit because it's really just kind of the meat and potatoes of the calculations themselves, the different scenarios. So we don't think that the vessel was moving when it sank. So we think, from everything being kind of placed in its position, there wasn't really any signs of, stuff getting moved around or something chaotic occurring. So we kind of came to the conclusion that it was stationary or moving at a very slow speed when it went down.
Yeah, there were items still on the seats. Like there's even a wrench. Was it a wrench? Yeah, like there's a wrench sitting on the seat at the bottom. It's just like, yeah. So there's no. That's why it's safe to say this thing's not flipping over or it's not doing any kind of aggressive motion, otherwise things would just go flying everywhere or they would have fallen right out of the boat.
This boat didn't capsize, so it must have been swamped by water coming over the deck edge. If you're in a situation where water's coming over the side and you're an experienced mariner, then you would expect there to be corrective action or, trying to prevent it, stop it. Or throwing stuff overboard. We didn't really see that on board here, which was a little strange. what we discovered was that the boat wasn't overloaded. So there was something else that happened to cause it. To have flooded the vessel, the gunwale would have to be submerged with considerable and sustained force before the mass of the water and the loss of buoyancy overcame the vessel's ability to self-correct, to upright. So you can kind of see it from the APTN video as well. Like, you have to kind of hold that underwater, the gunwale, for not just a moment, but hold it underwater with a sustained effort to overcome it. So, potential explanations for consideration. Number one, both people on one side hauling net that had been snagged. We felt like the likeliness for this would be pretty low. It would be a natural reaction to let go of the net or correct the weight distribution once water was coming over the gunwale. Point number two, a sudden movement or maneuver occurred where person one loses balance and falls overboard. Person two jumps in to help. Upon trying to re-enter the vessel on the same side, they have enough weight with wet clothes to submerge the gunwale and sink the vessel. Potential for this can be extrapolated from the above and is considered again to be low. Number three, vessel was affected by an external force and one or both gentlemen end up in the water either by the scenario above or an external force sinks the vessel to the bottom. It wouldn't take a lot or a big bump to knock somebody off their balance in the boat. But unfortunately there's just not enough there for us to say either way if anything happened like that.
Yeah, especially a lateral, like something lateral. Like if it's forward and backward, you'll fall forward in the boat. But it has, if it's something lateral, something comes up beside you or whatever, it's a little hard to detect, but it's enough, it may throw you off that it can get you in the water. Right?
Number four, the vessel is swamped by a wave of the right size and frequency. The potential for this seems low as the weather forecast on the night was reported to be calm. It could also be possible if another vessel passed by with a large enough wake. However, there is no evidence or reports of vessels operating in this area on the night in question. And just to add to that, it would take a pretty big wake, pretty steep wake to swamp the vessel. It's a pretty small bay. I don't think there's big enough vessels that are transiting through there to create that. From the conditions outlined in this report, it can be safe to assume that the vessel was not overloaded at the time of sinking. So, yeah, I mean, we did see the videos. It didn't seem like there was a lot of fish in that net. And from the load cases above, you can really see that it would take a lot of load to bring that down.
So, from our perspective, the question that was asked, we've been able to answer that question, which is the OPP theory of how the boat went down is not correct. But I think, Paul, do you have some thoughts about that?
No, I'm happy to talk. So initially, when we were doing this investigation, we felt that the manner of death was best classified as accident. I think we spoke on the phone about that if we have objective evidence that brings new information, then we always look at it again. And I think the subjective evidence indicates that the initial theory of how the boat came to rest on the bottom was not correct. So one of the actions that I will do as a regional coroner now, I'll revise our report to both have manners of death as undetermined.
Can I ask a question of your experts, if you don't mind?
It's up to the experts.
You can answer this one way or the other. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. What do you think of the original theory that it was overloaded and swamped and went down the way it did?
No, I don't think that was the case. Like, that was the
But in your expertise, is that crazy?
I'm going to interject a bit kind of
Okay.
here, because they've given that information pretty clearly. They're not in a court here. This isn't a finding of guilt or not guilt. I'm just feeling like they're being.
I hear you. I feel for the situation you're in, but I also know Bev and Tammy and Robin, Brittany and Jenny, how they feel, how they've been made to feel all these years.
Yep.
And I think they have two experts in front of them to say, you know what, you shouldn't have been led that way. You shouldn't have been led to believe this. Neither should the whole community. Their sons have been called thieves for 10 years, based on a theory that could never have happened. And Robin has said it over and over and over again. It could never have happened that way. They would have eased up. They would have done this. They would have done that. The police wouldn't listen to them over and over and over again. They wouldn't even show up to their house for 4 days after they went missing. I just wanted to give them an opportunity, that's all. To like go beyond, outside the lines of the presentation and give their heartfelt opinion, that's all.
I hear you, and I think they have.
Team, we're back home where you, Tyler, and Robin spent so many hours inside this garage. It's where we've always come to during this investigation for the last 2 years. We just heard what the coroner had to say. I can see your emotion right now. Is there any way you can describe how you feel?
Yeah, I'm just hurt, please. Like, how could they do that to us, to Tyler, to Maddie? It's just terrible. Call them thieves and then just push it aside and fighting it for 10 years, and then the coroner says, yeah, he's changing it. I just can't.
What was it like hearing those words that we're going to change it from accident to undetermined?
Well, it's heartbreaking because it's on my mind what they did to him. Did they hurt him or what they did to him? So that's just a big bother for me right now. Because I don't know what they did to him. But I'll find out.
I'm going to help you find out. I'm not going to say now, but you know exactly where I'm going.
Yes, I do.
I've been waiting months for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go knock on that person's door, and we'll see what they have to say. We're not done, okay?
We're just starting.